Alrighty, welcome back, friends. Today we are continuing our psychology theme on cognitive behavioral techniques. Last week we went over the introduction to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. This week we're covering cognitive distortions and how to reframe them. Very excited about this lesson. Next week we're going over using CBT to overcome anxiety and depression. This whole series I'm really excited about. And the last week, week 4, we're going to be going over long-term application of CBT techniques, or CBT techniques, that is. So jumping into it, today we have cognitive distortions and how to reframe them. Like always, we broke this section or this lesson into 2 sections. Part 1 being common cognitive distortions, and part 2 being strategies for reframing cognitive distortions. So pretty straightforward. It's understanding, one word naming them, we're defining some common cognitive distortions, and then once we understand them, know what they are, and we're able to define them, we're going to go over strategies to identify and label the distortions, and then going into reframing. And my goal with all these lessons is to provide you guys with concise information that will give you hard tools and protocols, hard meaning tangible, hard tools and protocols to improve your trading as a whole and also your life. So without further ado, let's jump into this. Cognitive distortions and how to reframe them. So common cognitive distortions. We have two main ones that I'm going into. And these are the ones I thought when I was researching cognitive distortions that really had to relate with trading. So we have all or nothing thinking, which is can be really detrimental to your trading career. And then we have overgeneralization. And we'll jump into both of them here. All or nothing thinking. So this distortion involves seeing situations in black and white, where something is either a complete success or a total failure with no middle ground. And I see this so often with people who tend to blow their accounts or break their rules. It is really this all or nothing headspace. So it leads to extreme thinking and unnecessary stress, making minor setbacks feel like major failures. And I think a lot of us might be able to relate with that, where we make a small mistake in the market and it feels like something major just happened. And I threw in that part of unnecessary stress for a particular reason. We talk so often about how chronic stress on the body is detrimental to your physical health, to your spiritual health, to your emotional health, to your mental health. It's detrimental to your health as a whole. So we want to try to rid our bodies of unnecessary stress. Some stress is good, like in the morning when we wake up, take a cold shower, do any sort of deliberate cold exposure. That's good stress. When you work out, that's good stress on your body. But chronic unnecessary stress is detrimental to our health. So I'll read that one more time. All or nothing thinking leads to extreme thinking and unnecessary stress, making minor setbacks feel like major failures. For example, if my trade doesn't hit the target, I'm a terrible trader. And yes, I know that's an extreme example, but I think we make little agreements to ourselves that align with that, where you may hit your daily drawdown that you set for yourself, or maybe you didn't even allow yourself the ability to follow through on your trading plan, and you hit your daily drawdown on your prop firm account, whether it's an eval or a fully funded account, whatever it might be. Say you hit that drawdown and you make those little agreements like, man, I can't believe I keep doing this. I'm really not good at this. I don't know if I'm cut out for that. And a lot of those can be subconscious, but some of them, they're very upfront in front of our headspace. When we do blow an account and we really make a big deal out of it, it's a really negative headspace to be in, and it can be detrimental not only, again, to our physical, our emotional, our mental health, but also our trading career. And I'll jump into that why, but you guys have to be able to take a step back, take a deep breath, and understand that all or nothing thinking is really common when it comes to trading, and we have to put a pause on that and have to find a better way of thinking. So practical tip for us is recognize when you're engaging in all or nothing thinking and remind yourself that a partial success or progress is still valuable. Consider all possible outcomes, not just the extremes. And what I threw in that last part because oftentimes we find ourselves when we blow an account in a really negative headspace, And that could truly be the end of your trading career if you let it be, where you blow an account and your negative head gets so wrapped around what just happened that you have it, instead of, this gray area like most of life is, you put it in this black or white category where, because I blew this account, I'm not a good trader and I'm not cut out for this. And even if it's not to that extent, just having those negative thoughts will lead to a regression of any progress that you have made. So just be very careful on your thoughts. Be very careful about how you think, and is it going to be beneficial? That should really be the overlying theme of a lot of your thoughts, not only in life, but especially when it comes to trading. So do we have any questions on all or nothing thinking? If not, we're going to jump into overgeneralization, another very common cognitive distortion that I see when it comes to traders. So jumping into overgeneralization. Overgeneralization occurs when a single negative event is seen as part of an unending pattern of defeat or failure. And, I skewed the definition a little bit there to fit in with our trading. So I'll read that one more time. Overgeneralization occurs when a single negative event is seen as part of an unending pattern of defeat or failure. So the reason I framed it like that is because it's very similar to that black or white thinking, the all or nothing thinking. When you do end up reaching your daily drawdown or your weekly drawdown or blowing an account, it may be the 5th time you've done that. And you can view it as, I cannot believe this is my 5th time blowing my account. I don't think I will ever be able to become successful. And again, that's an extreme example. But if we make small agreements to ourselves, like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Those little thoughts have tremendous ability to turn into a snowball effect and really affect our mental health as a whole. So we have to put our guard up against our own thoughts. And it's something that isn't talked about often, how, we can defend against our own thoughts, but it's something we have to be doing, especially if you want to see long-term success in the markets. Because say you do find success and consistency in the markets for some time, all it takes is, the start of negative thinking to grow into something bigger and bigger. And if you continue to make agreements with that negative self-talk, you will get to a point where it's like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this at all. I don't know if I'm, maybe this is not for me. Whatever it might be. These are very real situations that can happen to all of us. I just want us to be aware of this and to move forward in a positive way. And that's kind of the overall theme of cognitive behavioral therapy, trying to reframe how we think into a more positive light. So overgeneralization leads to a pessimistic outlook, where one mistake feels like a predictor of future failures. Again, just like what we went over. So for example, it's very similar to the all or nothing thinking. I lost this trade, so I'll never be good at trading. Again, that's an extreme example, but those little agreements are very, very dangerous, and you really should be putting up your armor against it. And especially those who grew up in a more traditional household. I grew up in a traditional household where my father was very, very strict about certain things. And, for a lot of where or how I grew up led into how I thought about things. And it led to, thinking of, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough for this. This has to be perfect in this way. This has to be done this way. And it led to, when I did fail or I didn't reach those expectations for myself, I'm not saying for my father, if I didn't reach the expectations that I set for myself, it would lead to these negative thoughts. Like, I really don't know if I'm good enough for this, yada, 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 X, Y, and Z. It goes on and on. You guys can fill it in with whatever negative thoughts you have. But that is not beneficial for anybody, especially yourself. So you have to put up armor against those negative thoughts. Truly, just like DC just said, you are your own worst enemy. It is so true. If you're able to take a deep breath when you feel those negative thoughts come on and really think to yourself, is this beneficial? Is this going to help me succeed? 99% of the time when you have those negative thoughts, it is not going to answer either of those questions right. So I just encourage you guys to put up that armor, to understand when those negative thoughts come, they're not beneficial. They're not from you, they're from the enemy, and you have to put up guard against them and think in a more positive light, because otherwise, yeah, it's going to lead to potentially a long-term effect on your mental health. And it, like I said, it's just a snowball effect that will progressively get worse unless you put a stop to it. So a practical tip for overgeneralization: challenge overgeneralization by reminding yourself that one event does not dictate future outcomes. Look at your overall track record and recognize that isolated losses or mistakes are part of the learning process. And I want to emphasize this part. When I say look at your overall track record and recognize that isolated losses or mistakes are part of the learning process, they may not be isolated for you if you're starting. Just understand that. That's part of the thing. Whenever you start a new skill set, you're going to suck at it. That's part of life. It doesn't matter what you do. If you go try to play an instrument that you've never picked up before, you're going to suck at it. The same thing happens when you come into trading. So it may not be isolated for you right now, but that's just understand that's part of the learning process. It's part of any other education you would get. If you were to go get your degree in college for a bachelor's, it could take you 2.5 to 4 years, maybe a little longer for some people, but that is part of the time frame that it typically takes you to learn. The same thing can be applied to trading. Understand that these losses and these mistakes are just part of your education, and you have to accept them with a positive attitude. Otherwise, this overgeneralization, this all or nothing thinking, these negative thoughts start to creep in, and they will compound. Just like your interest in your retirement fund, they're going to compound, and unfortunately, they're not doing it in a beneficial way. So just guard yourself of these negative thoughts and understand that things will get better as long as you're putting yourself in that headspace. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me read real quick what one of our friends just said in the chat. Is it just a negative event? I had for the longest time issues with being euphoric, and the positive outcome during a couple of trades. Sorry, I have the light like right in my eyes. It's I'm having trouble reading it. It gave me the conviction that I will be doing this every day, winning trades. Not anymore, but it took me a couple months of support by a trader psychologist. So it's not isolated in negative thoughts. When we're talking about these cognitive distortions, I put the two that I grabbed were most common that I saw when I was teaching people, and they happen to be negative. There are positive, and that goes back to our lesson we had in risk management yesterday, if you caught it, when we talked about risk management and advanced trading psychology, and we talked about confidence and overconfidence. So another distortion, a cognitive distortion, you could say, would be overconfidence. And I think I also see that quite a bit. And that ties directly with the emotion fear and directly in the emotion with greed. And, on the other side, this all or nothing thinking and overgeneralization often ties directly in with fear. I think a lot of what we deal with as traders psychologically revolves around those two really strong emotions, greed and fear. I think they're primal. They've been part of humans for a long, long time. And so this is no difference. This is something that really sparks those emotions in us, and we just have to put up this armor. And overconfidence really is a problem that we see. Typically, it's not as common as something like these negative thoughts, but truthfully, I'd rather be overconfident than on the negative side of things. But it is also detrimental. You cannot go into this market basing your risk management plan and your strategy off of your emotions. And I know that is, sometimes we throw that out there and people really don't have a strong grasp of that, especially if they're newer. But our goal should be not to hide away from our emotions. We should be fully feeling the emotions that come to us. And then we should pause, take a breath, understand them. Labeling really does help. If you guys don't understand or haven't researched into labeling emotions, it is a really powerful tool. And we can go into that if you guys want to. But pausing once these emotions rise, feeling them, labeling them, letting them pass, and not changing your analytical plan and your risk management plan, that is how you find success in the market. If you are unaware of how influential these emotions can be, you will start trading more, and you will start changing your plan more, and you may have a perfect, I mean, literally a perfect risk management plan and a perfect strategy, 100% win rate. But if you allow these emotions to affect that plan, you are not going to find success. And it's going to lead to all these cognitive distortions, and it's just going to snowball, like I said earlier, into worse and worse things. So it is, it's something we have to be aware of. And that's why I really enjoy these psychology lessons, trying to bring this stuff to light and, just educate people like, hey, the feelings that you're feeling are very real, and they can be detrimental to your trading career. Be careful. Like, these are some tips on how to fix it. And we're about to jump into strategies for reframing cognitive distortions. The overconfidence led me to take less and less trades. Strange, but I had to let go of these positive anticipation. Anyhow, I'm over it now. That's awesome. Glad to hear. Great learning experience too, I'm sure. I would go back and forth when I first started trading. It was really negative thoughts and then really positive thoughts. And it was back and forth and back and forth. And it was just so detrimental until I was really able to dial in the discipline over my emotions and really focus on my emotional control. Once that came into play, I had all the technical knowledge in the world. All I have to do is follow that plan. And it's the same here. Like, truly, if you reach out to one of the mentors, we will come up with a personalized risk management plan for you, and all you have to do is study ICT or whatever strategy you do in a trade. All you have to do is follow that plan, and you'll do just fine. But understand that these psychological aspects at play are very dangerous, and we have to be aware of them. Matthew stayed patient the entire morning, then caught the shorts. My best day yet. Woo, let's go, man. My number one problem was just wanting to get in a trade as fast as possible. Yeah, patience is so important. It is, as you realize, like it pays out in the long run. That's awesome, Matthew. Congrats. 100% just follow your plan. Once I did it more and more, it became second nature. Yeah, just like habit forming, man. It works both ways, either negatively to your trading or positively. If you're able to build up these, become aware of what it can affect your trading, and then once you build up these good habits, and the world is yours, my friend. All right, so we went over common cognitive distortions, all or nothing thinking, overgeneralization, and then we even touched on overconfidence. Moving into part 2, we have strategies for reframing cognitive distortions. So we went over what they are, how they can affect us. So let's identify and label these distortions, or how to, I should say. The first step in reframing is recognizing and labeling the cognitive distortion as it occurs. Once identified, it becomes easier to address. And essentially, this doesn't have to be a complicated thing. You can, after you make a trade and you lose a trade, let's say, and you have this all or nothing attitude where you think because you lost that trade, it is just this unending pattern of failure and you're not good enough and whatever it is. Sit back, take a breath, be like, okay, is that healthy? What are the thoughts I'm having right now healthy, and will they help me progress in the future? And the answer is going to be no, they're not going to help you whatsoever. Take that breath, let the emotions rise and fall as they come, and then move forward in an analytical way. Just be like, in a positive way. Just move forward and say, okay, what would actually be the best strategy to get out of this headspace? Well, maybe I should go outside and get some exercise. That would probably help get my mind off the charts for a little bit. And then you can come back later and sit down, be like, I'm going to open up my journal and I'm going to write, like, okay, I continuously have this overwhelming feeling when I lose trades that is something bigger than it is. I need to work on this, and this is how I'm going to work on it. X, Y, Z, A, B, C, every single day. That's a really healthy way to look at this stuff. So I think being aware and being able to label these emotions and distortions can really, really be beneficial for us. So I highly recommend you guys to use journals. I know I say it nearly every single lesson, and I'm not even kidding you guys. I probably have a dozen different journals for different areas of my life at home. That's not a joke. It's ridiculous. Like, I have so many journals, and sometimes I have trouble finding them. And I'm like, because I'll have like two that are the composite type notebooks, and then I'll have 2 leather bound ones. I'm like, okay, which one is which? But I promise you, it is so beneficial for my mental health. And as we know, because we're in our wellness series, we're going on over how intertwined the mind and body is. It's not only beneficial for my mental health, it's beneficial for my physical health, my emotional health, the whole shebang, guys. It's really good. All right, let's jump into it. We went over, I'll just repeat this one more time. The first step in reframing is recognizing and labeling the cognitive distortion as it occurs, essentially feeling the emotion and labeling it as it comes. Once identified, it becomes easier to address. So I recommend to keep a journal of your thoughts and emotions, especially after significant decisions or challenges. Label any distortions like all or nothing thinking or overgeneralization or overconfidence, and write out a more balanced, realistic alternative. Meaning, how are we going to, just like what I was talking about, how are we going to proceed in the best way possible? And that should be the goal of everything in any business and any, really any situation you find yourself in life. What's the best way to look at this? Same thing when like you get into a minor car accident, I preface that. But if say you get into a little fender bender and you sit there and you let the emotions come for just a moment, you sit there for 30 seconds before jumping out of the car. Like, okay, that was super frustrating. This was not my fault. I'm really upset at the other driver right now. I'm late. It's going to cause this issue and this issue. None of those emotions, sure, they come. They're real. Feel them. That's okay. But none of those emotions are going to help you move through the situation in the best way possible. So take that deep breath and think to yourself, what's the best way to move about this? Probably with clear communication, and try to offer a smile to the other person. And if you do that emotional intelligence, that interpersonal skills, that's when that stuff really comes into play, and you can deal with that situation as efficiently as possible and move through it. It's said and done. It is what it is. How are we going to move through this the best way possible? So it's the whole idea behind reframing cognitive distortions and negative emotions as a whole. So we're getting into our last part here, cognitive reframing. Reframing involves changing the way you interpret a situation, shifting from a negative or distorted view to a healthier, more constructive perception, what we just talked about. Just take that deep breath. Just breathe. And I'll teach you guys a breathing exercise right after this. And again, this is just some stuff I already covered. I went a little past my notes already. When you catch yourself in a cognitive distortion, ask yourself, what evidence do I have for this thought? Is there a more balanced way to view this? Is there a better way I can approach this? This helps reframe the situation in a way that promotes resilience and healthy thinking. And again, if you're able to build that habit of having really good understanding over your emotions, leading to higher and higher emotional intelligence, you'll be able to deal not only with your own emotions, but with the emotions of others, and it will lead to all sorts of good things. On the other side of things, if you don't and you let those emotions take control and you are reactionary to them and you really let loose on someone who just give you a fender bender or whatever it is, that will lead to lesser emotional intelligence. You'll not be able to deal with situations in optimal form in your 9 to 5, let's say, in your business, your vocation. Your coworkers are going to see that. Your bosses are going to see that. People are going to want to work with you less and less. And same thing happens outside of work, in your family. How are your kids going to look at you? How does your spouse look at you or your partner? These things are so influential in our life, just these little thoughts and emotions that come. So we have to, one, be aware of them, and then think, how are we going to move about this in the best way possible? And if we did that, imagine if everyone did that around the world, things would be better, I think. But so there's my advice to you guys. Just, and again, I like to preface these lessons with, I'm not speaking from a pedestal. This stuff takes work every single day. And it really is encouraging for me to, study this information and, put it into a format and notes and then distribute it to you guys. It helps me learn, and it helps me stay on track and become a better person. And that is also, the kind of mindset I'm trying to inspire in other people as well. So this, again, not from a pedestal. This stuff takes daily work and discipline. It is just something that we ought to be doing because it's hard, because it's good. It's the right thing to do. So here's my closing statement for us. By understanding by understanding common cognitive distortions like all or nothing thinking or overgeneralization or overconfidence, and applying strategies to reframe them, you can foster healthier, more balanced thought patterns, then support emotional well-being. Messed up my last closing statement, dang it. You can foster healthier, more balanced thought patterns that support emotional well-being and better decision making. So this stuff is super powerful. A 25-minute lesson, I think that's pretty good on cognitive distortions and how to reframe them. I think it is so powerful, and if we become aware of these emotions and these distortions, it becomes easier to label them. The easier it is to label them, the easier it is to address them and move forward in a better way. This stuff is important, guys, and I highly recommend you guys implement this in one way or another. And I think the best way to do that might be just journaling, and it could be in your same trading journaling. After you take a trade, you write down your entry, where you got out of your take profit level, your stop loss, where you actually got out of the trade, and then you write down your emotions. Like, I got out of the trade a little bit earlier, not based on a level that broke or a technical analysis. I got out because I was fearful of the price action and I thought it was going to come back down. And if you're able to identify those emotions and find patterns, you're able to easier measure them. And if you're able to measure them, you're going to be able to manage them a lot better. So that's the whole idea here, folks. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I wasn't rambling too much and you guys got a little something out of that. But now if you guys want to open it up to Q&A, I'm more than happy to do so. If not, I bid you farewell, and I will see you guys tomorrow for our free prop firm giveaway. Let me read through one more thing. Tipper said, journaling is key. It is my daily routine. The biggest part is actually the mental part, not the technical part. I could not agree more, my friend. Truly, I could not. And I say it all the time. I could literally hand you the perfect 100% win rate and risk management plan, and most people would not be able to follow it because of these mental distortions and these emotions that they let control their trading. And so that's why the mental part, the psychological part, is so much more important in my opinion. Well, friends, it doesn't look like we have anything much, so I'll leave you guys with this. Go work out today. Go do whatever you need to do as far as responsibility wise, but drink water while you're doing it. Eat healthy foods while you're doing it. I don't know if you guys know, the CDC estimates by 2050 we're going to see a massive increase, over 100% increase in cancer rates in America. Why is that? It's the food we're eating. So be aware of that stuff. Try to go for the organic option. Work out, drink your water, tell your loved ones that you love them. Just start living, guys. We often think we have much more time than we really do. So with that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you guys later. See ya.